Yes, way down near the back. Come on up by the aisle. Yeah. Good morning.
Hi, Adya. My name's Ted.
Hi, Ted.
I've been to a lot of your talks, and today was a very good talk. And but I still want to ask my question. You've talked about nirvana being cessation, and you've talked about being emptied out. When the enlightenment process can be an emptying out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've experienced a lot of emptying out, but for me, it's just turns into a psychological depression.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is the difference between an emptying out that leads to an enlightenment and one that leads just to depression?
Well, particular people are hooked up. We're all hooked up to respond to this emptying out in different ways. For some people, they respond to the emptying out in a very negative way. It leads to depression or a flatness. Some people, it leads to a numbing out. You never know how a particular body and mind is hooked up to respond to seeing this. In fact, from the me's perspective, depression would seem to be a rational response to this. If you're a me, right? What I thought, what I believed, what I supported myself from turns out not to actually be so. But the difficulty is then the me just goes into another reaction, doesn't it? It tells itself a story. It tells itself another thought process that leads to the negative experience, depression. So what is your mind telling you? What's its interpretation of what's happening that leads to the depressive experience?
For me, it's just becoming more and more isolated, feeling that I'm not interested in anything, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to be with anybody.
Yeah.
And that just, it creates a huge separation.
Yes, right. That's the me sort of retreating, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't see the difference between that being emptied out and what you experienced.
Well, there's no me to retreat. It's simply an interpretation. See, one is the me going, gosh, I don't relate to people very well anymore. What's going on around me? I don't really see things that way. You see how it relates back to a me? I don't fit in.
Yeah.
Maybe just even because of what I've seen, I don't fit in. It's an interpretation. What would it be without the interpretation? Because the interpretation is creating a very isolated sense of self now, right?
Yeah.
A very destructive sense of self.
So, what do I do?
Same thing. I understand, my friend. I understand.
I know. You're brought to the paradox, and
It's amazing, isn't it?
yeah,
It's totally amazing. It's infuriating and it's hysterical at the same time. Yeah. It's the same. See, it's the same thing, though. It's the same investigation, but now it just turns on the I, who is the sense of self now that's being created as a reaction. Because that's the self that feels very isolated, separate, gets very depressed. Right? And basically the me is saying there's nothing in this for me.
right.
Right? And from the me's perspective, it's true, but the problem with that is there really, that the me that says there's nothing in this for me is being, it's being inferred again. It's being interpreted. Does the depressed me exist, you see? Look at what it supports itself on, because it supports itself on very negative interpretations. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Very negative interpretations. So those interpretations can be looked at. What are the interpretations that create this very isolated sense of self? Very alienated sense of self. What is the interpretations that are going on that's creating it? Do you see? Because that's all that's created, and is negative interpretations.
So the best one can do is just to see what's present.
Yeah, see what's creating the depressed sense of self. How is the mind interpreting the moment to create a sense of alienation? See, because the sense of alienation is being created, you see? It's being dreamed up. It's a very painful dream. But it is being created, given the way this particular body-mind's hooked up. And it's actually not even that unusual. That's why I said, if you look at it from a different perspective, it's almost rational. From the separate self's point of view, it's, what else could it conclude?
I got a sense when you were speaking, when you said that wisdom can take you to a certain point, and then you have to let go.
Yes.
That depression can be just about holding on.
Very, very amazing way to hold on. Remember we were talking about shifting shapes, shape-shifting self? Depression is a fantastic way to hold on because, it blurs all your senses of looking at it. It numbs things out. It's a very, very effective way of holding on. Yeah. And if all this in-seeing, it culminates in that point of surrender. Yeah. It culminates in that,